Fortnitemares has been out for just over a week and a half, and the community don't even know how to feel about it. Holiday events in general, like Winterfest, and especially in this case Fortnitemares, have not been nearly as well received as they used to in the last couple years. I would argue that the event we currently have is about 10 times better than the last one, yet it just doesn't feel as special as events that we were way more fond of, like 2018 for example. On the island at that time we had the corrupted zones, we had the cube monsters, we had the shadow stones, we even had Kevin the Cube and the floating island and the leaky lake, and it was all just so memorable. Now I actually think this year, in terms of having like a main focus, it did really well in Fortnitemares with the whole thing being about Eclipse and vampires and Kato Thorn, but it's missing that Halloween vibe, and I know the reason why, but it will be better explained when we explore 2019. 2019 was a year that focused solely on LTMs and did a really good job at it. We had obviously the most iconic one being the battle with the Storm King in the center of the island, which was a genius crossover between Save the World and Battle Royale, but then it also focused on Horde Rush for the first time, which had been introduced earlier in the year, and it showed us some awesome creative maps, which is something we should honestly bring back. The following year did equally as good and honestly even better. The focus of the 2020 event was Midas, who everyone was and still is obsessed with for some reason. He came back as a shadow after being chomped by a shark and proceeded to turn everyone else into a spirit. Look, it was really odd. There were henchmen committing rituals or something. We could run around and drive cars and do dances as ghosts. Like, it made no sense, but it was a really cool idea and it was really well executed as well. Notice how consistently throughout 2018, 19, and 20, there was some dark main force behind everything which everyone was super invested in. There was a ton of map and gameplay changes that made it just feel really like Halloween, and there was fog, jump scares, zombies, everything that just made it feel like such more of a horror game, and it was a really cool time to play. I think all of those aspects tie into why 2021 was possibly the best Halloween event we've ever gotten. You need a big, threatening enemy who threatens to destroy literally everything and is terrifying? Yeah, well, we've got the Cube Queen. She's behind Kevin, she's behind the aliens, the mothership, she's super intimidating and made for an awesome event. Her event was definitely my favorite, and let me know what yours was in the comments. And while you're down there, hit the subscribe button if you're enjoying the video so far. The island was in full festivity mode. We had a massive kingdom built out of cubes at the center of the island. Like, that is such a cool idea. And there were bubbles that you could walk into, which would warp how you saw everything. You would fight multiple stages of monsters, and there was a huge unique ending to it called the Caretaker, who was actually really terrifying and really cool as well. He could pull you into these encounters at any moment throughout the Fortnitemares update, and I think that made it super special. This creepy sense could be felt all across the island, and you could be pulled in at any moment unsuspecting. That excitement and that intensity, that Halloween feeling was all gone in 2022, which people are starting to call the worst Halloween event ever. It just wasn't it. We didn't have any Cube Queen, any Midas, any Kevin. No, instead we had some random Victoria Saint reskin with a wolf helmet. And this Halloween feel that made absolutely no sense and was connected to really nothing could only have been felt in two different POIs. The reality tree was turned into a party, and there was some old farmhouse called Grim Gables, but that was about it. The collabs too just did not say anything Halloween related at all. We got Mr. Meeseeks, I guess, but what? Why release him on Halloween? Give us like Scream or something. That is something I'll give this year's event credit for. Its collabs are actually very relevant and very cool. I love the Michael Myers emote with the knife on the piano. I think that's actually super creative. But there's one issue that the two of those events share that just makes them feel really lackluster. Their whole vibe, all the new features, everything in the update is restricted to like 2 or 3 POIs. I'll be totally honest with you, when I opened this new Fortnitemares update and I went to Eclipse Estates and I fought the flying vampire boss, I thought, wow, this is really, really good. Until I left Eclipse Estates and there was nothing else. It was all restricted to 1 POI. Now look, all Fortnite needed to do was have some sort of spooky theme across the whole island. Maybe have the blood moon permanently. Maybe have the eclipse shroud the island in darkness. I know it does that for the day cycle, but what about all the time? What about the fog? What about the zombie? This event was really good in terms of content, but the reason it's so hated is because it just doesn't feel like Halloween. The title of this video reflects that as well. It basically has two meanings. I think this year's event is almost 10 times better than the last one, and I think the next year's event will be 10 times better than this one. If you weren't already aware, Donald Mustard, the creative director of Fortnite, has been replaced by Charlie Wen. Charlie Wen is an absolute expert on visual storytelling in games like God of War and movies like Marvel's Thor. He's going to be insane for the aesthetic, feel, and mood of the game, especially in events like Fortnitemares. It's gonna look awesome next year, I can almost guarantee that. So I think it's best we stay hopeful for something like Fortnitemares, and we stop it from being the most hated event in Fortnite history, because it's looking that way. Just remember that only a season ago the event we got was 2 sprays and some ice creams, and then compared to that, we're doing pretty well.